Well, guys, great to see everybody. Hope you had a wonderful holiday, and I can't tell you how excited we are as staff to kind of get going again. We still have a couple weeks left until our guys get back, but we've had, just the feedback we've gotten from our guys as we stay in touch with, with our team over the break. There's a lot of excitement. Guys are still, kind of juiced up over, what transpired in that bowl game, and I think the key now is that we capture that momentum, and the momentum when they get back, moving into RAMU, the off-season program to carry us into spring ball, and then obviously the development of some of our young players is going to be, man, it's huge, and it's nice when you end a season with a victory. That helps. It helped us last year, I thought. When we ended the season with a kind of one of those wins where we had to come back and everybody kind of contributed, and I think that helped us going into the off season. And I know now the majority of our guys in our program understand the commitment of what it's going to take in this off season for us to be successful. And I know there's some seniors that left that were some really good players that are excited they're not going to have to go through RAMU, and they joke with the younger guys about what that is and what it's all about. And really, all it is, guys, is really forcing yourself to step outside who you are and push yourself a little farther than what you think you can. And I'm looking forward to seeing this rookie class, kind of get their feet wet and fight through, some tough times, and that really helps you as you step forward for the season. So, with that, some guys that are coming off, the surgeries, the postseason cleanup, Donnell Alexander, who. I'll just start with that significant what he fought through, and we cleaned up, on his knee. Shows his toughness. I was even a little worse maybe than we anticipated, but he'll be there for spring ball. I guess what I say, the reason I say that is just kind of, it really kind of shows a guy's desire and drive to help his team win. Austin Burke, who obviously was early, had that other hip deal. He probably won't be in spring ball, which is going to obviously hurt his development. But, at the same time, it means he has to have a great summer. That's kind of where this kind of all goes to. Bernard Blake, who played that last game with a pretty significant shoulder, went in and got it taken care of. He's going to be one of those that's probably limited drill-wise, probably hold them out of scrimmages or that kind of thing. I'm getting at. Zach Goldich, who, had some existing stuff that we went in and got taken care of. We're anticipating him be here, to participate in spring. That could be one of those, where you've got a pitch count. I'm getting at. Who else here? Josh Lovingood, who, I think we're going to be able to have redshirted, because of, his injury occurred in that Alabama game. But he should be back and ready to go for spring football. The interesting was, this is kind of a pretty good story. Steve-O, we knew we were going to do the one shoulder. It was one of those deals where, you do a end of the season cleanup, and yet he popped his other shoulder when he popped the ball out on that on the end of the game. Yeah. And so that's more, it's not going to be surgical, it'll be rehab. But I'd hate to figure out how the guy's going to eat training table with both arms wrapped up like that, I guess. But
did he have surgery on the one shoulder?
Yeah,
as was planned.
Yeah, as was planned. These were ones that we knew. As soon as the season was over, we were going to get taken care of.
Did he get like 2-for-1?
No, we didn't get a 2-for-1 deal. You know what? We ought to check into that. That isn't bad. fact, that's pretty good. Max is fine. That shoulder that he had for a couple weeks there, I think.
He didn't require surgery, right?
No, his was, he did have on the 30th cleanup, but nothing major. The one, Tyler Sambrelo, will probably miss spring ball. In some ways, it's going to hinder how we operate up front. In other ways, it's going to really get some valuable reps for some guys. And when you look at spring ball, it's about the development of your whole team. And so he'll be a guy that'll be a drill guy, but probably out of, the scrimmages and live contact stuff.
What's his problem?
He had a shoulder. Yeah.
Could you confirm a rumor I heard about how he first heard it?
I hadn't heard that
It
one.
was on a leap into the end zone
Well,
as a running back.
you know what? I don't know. I don't know exactly when it was.
Okay.
I just know that he did a great job all season with it, and we just felt this was one of those guys, honestly, that probably could have gone and not done it. All right, but we felt, and he's a guy that I truly believe has a chance further down, and I thought it was important for him. That we get it taken care of and make sure it's right, and I think it'll help him for his future. And then Willie Udofia, who wasn't able to play in the last game, he'll be fine there. So, kind of looking, I know some of the things, as far as attrition, as far as where we're at, I have not gotten any where guys have asked for a release or looking to transfer. Head coach is probably the last guy that finds that stuff out, But the one thing is, I haven't gotten any of that yet, or fielded any calls, from guys. So I won't know any of that really until they get back. When is it? The 17th or 20th, whatever day that is. Yeah, 17th is yeah. And I have not had total end of season meetings yet with all of them, only because of just how the bowl game, played, and then boom, we were right into break. So, I'll update that obviously as soon as we get anything there. Position changes. We've talked about some possibilities of some guys looking at some other spots, because the number one thing you got to do in a program is, you've got to recruit every day, but you've got to take care of the guys that are here. And we do a top 70 after spring ball and after the season, where we list what we feel everybody on the the coaching staff does it independently, and we list our top 70 guys. And what you do is you find interests there sometimes where maybe in your top 22, there's a certain group that has 4 or 5 players in it, but there's only 2 or 3 spots that are starters there. Well, if they're your top players that you feel your best football players on your team, irregardless of anything, then it probably is, hey, you know what, we better at least take a look at somebody at another position. I have not visited with any of those guys yet as far as what we're looking to do, so I'm not, I don't want to do that, because I never move a guy. I don't believe that's right, that until I visit with them and they are open to it, because they're going to play better if they're committed to a spot. You know what I'm getting at? And as soon as we get those, obviously you'll see it, because it'll be on the depth chart that or position chart that we put out. So, but there are some of those that we're looking at, and we'll move forward from there. We obviously, the signing of 2 tight ends, in this junior college class that'll be here. We've got 4 guys, new guys, that'll be here for spring ball. That'll be huge. And you think about Finley, for example. Jordan, obviously in there at O-line, that we felt it was important that we got somebody that could be here, to learn through spring. Feel like we've got kind of two guys, different guys in Montez and Walker at tight end. One more of probably a Kevon type guy, and then one more of maybe a Crockett type guy. And on the line guy, as some of our young guys keep developing at that position, and you know how much I kind of enjoy using tight ends, and we work on that. So looking forward to them, and then Hodges coming in the secondary. That's going to be big, and then with Bernard maybe being down a little bit, that there'll be a bunch of reps there for him. So, I think those guys will get thrown into the mix right away, and feel good about that. So, from a momentum standpoint, I just can't tell you how, it's interesting, the power of television. And, what that game, I mean, I've got a lot of comments maybe, and then until last night's game, maybe arguably the best bowl game for excitement as there was. And, I think it just speaks volumes for how far we've come. And yet, guys, we've got a long ways to go, obviously. But, I think getting that momentum as we get back and the positive things that are happening, recruiting is going well. Still not quite sure how many we're going to sign, but our number's still probably going to be around that 19 to 21. I think that we talked about earlier, and then we move forward from there. So with that, what the heck's going on in your guys' lives? Anything fun?
When you look at, when you talk about capturing the momentum of that last game, is a lot of that on what Mike Kent will do in the RAMU program? Yeah. And how much of that is steered towards what your primary goals will be in spring? Obviously, rebuilding that offensive line. Mm-hmm. You can't really do that in RAMU, but you kind of can, can't you?
It really, that the toughness quota that, of what they push themselves through at that period. I kind of look at that last game and our guys weren't tired. I mean, they really, and I think that's a credit to what Mike and his staff have done in our weight program and what they've implemented in the functional strength aspect of what we do in there, and our conditioning. I was really nervous because you have that lapse, and Mike assured me, and sure enough, I didn't see a lot of guys, having to tap out. You know what I'm getting at? In a physical ball game, and the other team running a lot of plays, and us having to play some catch up, that kind of stuff. So, what we do is in this offseason is going to determine, as I've told you, it's going to determine who we are and build an identity for this next year's team.
How hard was that to teach this group of players? You've made a big point of that if everything you did this season started back last January and it's a whole year-long process. These guys all felt like they were working pretty hard before you came. What was the change, and what were the biggest differences, and then how did you get guys to buy into it?
Well, I think, in each one of our lives, what value does this bring to me? I mean, that's a question that has to be answered. And then what value does that bring, and how much do I care for the team, right? And the program. And what I saw a commitment by a group of guys that said, you know what, I see now the value, if that makes sense. And that a lot of that credit, look, that's not me. It's, we set the parameters, and then, individual guys then decide. We all have choices. You've heard me talk about that. We choose how, you chose how you walked into this room today. What kind of attitude you had, okay? Every day you wake up, we have a choice, okay? And we're either going to get better or we're going to get worse. We're never going to stay the same. And understanding, I mean, that's it. I mean, it really is simple. The principles are simple. And, you know, if you go into something miserable, like I didn't like math, all right, I'm going to admit it. And my dad was a math teacher, okay? So how embarrassing was that, right? But if I went in with a bad attitude when I went into geometry class, I wasn't going to get anything out of it. This is the same thing. It's all about how you think and what you're going to accomplish this day. And what Mike and his staff have done in the off season, because they spend more time with them than we do, obviously, because of the rules, right? They have really made it a place that the guys want to be. And the camaraderie that's built from seeing guys really bust their tails is something that, you know, they've done an outstanding job. And I think we've done a good job of maybe eliminating guys, and from a relevance standpoint, they're either relevant or they're irrelevant based on their actions. And we got, you know, a group of pretty good guys right now.
Will guys like Donnell, Ty, Max be able to go through RAMU even if
There'll be some modified parts just because of, like, based on the whatever the injury was.
But how important is it to have guys that went through it last year, saw the worth?
It's
Because if you were without those guys in RAMU, that would be detrimental.
well. I wish, you know. I mean, no, I don't wish that you guys would have seen the first day at RAMU when I got here, because you would have cried as hard as I did. But it's just to see the transformation, and you know, the anticipation for some of these young guys who have heard about it but haven't experienced it. That's priceless now. And then to see the older guys, you know, no, this is how we do it. This is why you're a Ram. This is the commitment it takes, you know, to be successful. And the first, man, it's fun. It really is. And it's better now, obviously, because you have guys that understand the reason why.
How much better do you need it?
We need it a lot better. And yet that's something that you strive and you push for every single year, and understand each team is different. This is going to be a different team. This is going to be because, you know, you lose guys and you bring new guys in. The key is those guys that have been here, as they move down the row in this meeting room, right? You know, our seniors sit up front, but those guys now need to pass the torch to those young guys, and then that's how you build a successful organization, is the guys coaching guys.
Is really the way you kind of look at this offseason? Is it, you know, you're 8-6, winning record, won a bowl game, all those things were good, but do you look at it and convince this isn't where we want to be, this isn't good enough?
Well, I think, you know, when you look at you know, the games we gave away, it's not even close to good enough. And yet you probably know me as well as anybody now that I'm never satisfied anyway, because we can always do something to get better. And that's what we're striving to do.
Jim, I guess the numbers that you lost at graduation is about average nationally, so you've kind of stabilized in that regard. But you lost a lot of star power.
Yeah,
Do you
we
toss
did.
and turn at night? How does that dynamic
Yeah.
change things?
It is, and yet, you know, the star power that we may have lost was well deserved. I think Weston Richburg, to me, that's the biggest star we had. And you know, when you hear it in baseball, you got to be strong up the middle, right? Well, we were pretty strong up the middle, and started with him. So, you know, that probably is one of my big concerns. And yet, you know what, we've got a couple guys, Freddie Zerbelis, who's, you know, been in the program now and has learned from a pretty good guy, and Jake Bennett, who, you know, had really developed, I think, into a really good player. That'll be a great battle, and yet one of those guys might end up a guard, but the flexibility to have two of those. I look at it as you're never going to replace the star power. You can't just insert, okay, because that guy has developed that, right? But now where's the next star coming from? It could be a different position. It could, you see what I mean? So where that's developed is it's actually developed in the off season.
Jim, how you look at the offensive line, certainly, and that certainly was the strength of this team, especially by the end of the season. And yet, it seemed like it really took half a season, both of your years, for the offensive line to really kind of gel. Is that a huge concern, given that you're going to have so many new guys? Or was that just a matter of adjusting, still trying to figure out the plays, the blocking schemes that they were being asked to do?
I think that's a it's a valid question. I hadn't really thought about it. I think part of it is maybe sometimes who you play. Sometimes maybe you're a little better against a team that probably isn't as good, and yet at the same time, I think that development, we've got to get off to a faster start. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and yet sometimes you learn some of your most valuable lessons in defeat. It really forces you to look into yourself and really realize, was it them or was it us?
I was just wondering, is there anything inherent that you've seen that can help them get that faster start, that you look back at maybe second half of last season versus this first and second half of each season, and maybe when things kind of clicked and maybe what it was that...
Well, we were clicking decently. I mean, you look at, 3 games you got leads in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Which they'd never had really before. And I think figuring out how to finish, I think we did that, and that makes you kind of feel pretty good as a coach, I guess, when you kind of look back in retrospect. It doesn't make you feel good that you lost, I'll tell you that.
How'd Joey O'Connor look?
Well,
Pretty celebrated.
I know, and I don't know that Joey's going to be back with us. He had that pretty significant knee problem, and there's some question, in his mind as to, what, do I want to risk this, or do I want to be able to play catch with my kid, and those are all things that we, in this game and as in a lot of games, that you kind of deal with mentally, and so, I probably don't. I think his playing days are probably done.
Did he re-ding it? Or?
Yeah, and it wasn't totally well when it got here, so we went back in, which is
Right.
something we
Right.
do, to help every guy in a program, and there were some things that Joey's a great kid, and I'd take him again. I'm getting out. I'd do it. There isn't one thing I'd do differently, and and in this case, it's a choice. It's hard.
Will he still have any kind of role in the program, or is that one of those things you wait and see?
Wait and see.
I mean, like a
Yeah.
Portland or some of those guys who've stuck around
Yeah.
and helped you in other ways.
Totally wait and see. I know that, as you know, guys, I mean, I'm here for what's best for him and what he, wants to do.
Plans on staying in school anyway.
I believe so. There's some directions in his career life that he may be looking at where school isn't necessary. What I'm getting at?
Yeah.
But obviously we're here for him.
Can you talk about your coaching staff a little bit? Do you expect
I'd love to.
stay in?
Those guys did a great job, didn't they?
Right.
And that goes down to that that transfer thing too. The head ball coach is the last one to find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I know that there's some buzz around some of our guys, and the exciting thing is, that means we got pretty good guys, and yet, I guess I don't have a crystal ball, to say. I know as of right now, everybody's up there working their tail off, and have all been recruiting hard and, evaluating and doing the things we need to do at this time of year. So, but I don't anticipate any.
And you're not gonna make any changes. But what about Joey Porter? Does he still have a role in your staff going forward?
Yeah, he does, and he's still finishing his degree.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
But if he graduates in May, he can't be an undergrad assistant anymore. Does he still want to stay here and get his master's?
That's something that, we need to, that's the next step. The first step is, let's get the degree, right? And then we'll move forward from there. But Joey did an outstanding job. Yeah, he's still here.
And if there's any way you'd like to keep him on
Oh,
staff?
I'd love to keep him, yeah.
You guys embraced in a hug after the game, the New Mexico Bowl. Can you just talk about what he meant to your team this year and how he could bring energy to your
I think he brought a lot of, there's obviously a natural credibility here, guys. I mean, look at what the guy's done. And, every day they walk into the Joey Porter locker room, all right? And, oh boy, by the way, here he is, I think he did a really good job with some guys on an individual basis. And that's kind of what, the role was, is here, take this guy kind of aside and let's, let's strike a fire, or let's, talk about a little bit of technique or whatever. You know what I'm getting at? And he did. I'm glad he's a Ram. I wished he was still playing.
Buzz with coaches, also some national buzz with you. Just whether your name's actually in conversation or not, when you hear that in a good light, they're not hiring at smaller schools, wanting to hire at smaller schools. Does that personally speak to you as a coach that, hey, I'm doing something well?
Yeah, you know what? It's guys, this time of year in this profession is miserable. Okay, and here's why. I've got a lot of good friends that are going to be out of work. Because you build relationships, right? And it's hard. I mean, it is a hard time of year. The exciting thing is, at least for myself, is people are taking note about what we are accomplishing at Colorado State University, the direction and where we have come from in a short period of time. And I think really the excitement of what there is moving forward is what, to me, it's kind of flattering when you hear it. And yet, if my dad was around, the one thing he instilled in me was, you never worry about what's next. You worry about what you're doing right now. And if somebody takes note, great. That means obviously you're doing something right and not screwing it up like I used to screw up the chores. Well, guys, there were some chores that I used to screw up, and boy, I'd hear about it. So you find out that, there is no chore that is too little. Whatever it is, go do it to your best of your ability, and if people take notice, great.
Have you been contacted?
I haven't personally been contacted, no.
You plan on being here next year?
I'm a Ram.
Yeah.
There's obviously things out there, guys, and yet I don't look at that. I didn't look to take this job. Does that make, I didn't look to become the coordinator at Alabama. Somebody takes notice in your work, and that's exciting. That's opportunities. But, we have a lot to accomplish here, and guys, we have a outstanding administration. Dr. Tony Frank and Jack are just, they're a blast to work with, because vision, and commitment to, look, you're not going to have all the resources, but that shouldn't hinder you in doing a good job, right? And doing everything you can. And it's a great situation.
We talked a little bit about your offensive line, and obviously you need to rebuild that, but what are the other key areas in your team you need to start focusing on with RAMU?
Yeah.
And definitely.
We've got we took some dents in the D-line now, and yet I think we have some parts there that, now a couple of them got injured. Josh Lovingood, we felt was, well, shoot, the guy started in a game, right? And so he's a guy that we need to get healthy and get back. But I think win the battle up front, you got a chance, right? So, offensive line and defensive line, I think we've got a pretty good linebacker core. And with Kevin Davis now coming back, right? Deontay, I thought, really did some good things as a true freshman for us. So I feel our depth there is pretty good. But I would say the biggest thing is now integrating these young receivers, which, guys, I think we have a little bit of talent there. And but getting them in tune to get going in Sammy Long, Xavier Williams, and obviously Elroy Masters. So
Where's your secondary fit in there? Because obviously you have all of them coming back except for your best one, Jack Bell.
yeah,
And
you know,
they're
Justin
up and down
Sweet,
all year.
up and down all year. Now I'm not going to sit here and hide that one. That was pretty disappointing, and yet, they always seem to rise back, and that was a good thing. And I think with Hodges and then Sweet, obviously, who we feel has a lot of skill, learning to play the position, and we'll have another couple young guys in there.
When you were talking about up and down all year, did you mean Tyree, or did you mean Justin?
No. I'm talking about just the unit.
Okay.
I mean, go do what you did against, yeah. And then another game, I think it was, I think the term was dental records.
How's Coach Woodford doing? And do you have any hesitation on sending him into the living rooms of recruits?
I don't, no, because, he's dealt with, his mistake. He's doing a great job. Nobody hurts worse than him. He understands it. He's obviously taken pretty harsh punishment, and yet no. Luke, he's a quality person, cares about his players, and I don't have any hesitation if that's what you're asking. In fact, I hadn't even thought about it, to be honest.
This is the first year you haven't brought in some JC D-line. Obviously, I know you've got Lovegood, you've got Burke, guys coming off injuries, but do you feel like you've got the bodies there to have a good, solid D-line again? Because that was really an area that developed nicely this year for you, too.
I thought it did. I really did. And I think we have the, you guys realize we just didn't even have the numbers there. I mean, there was just Lanston Tanya, I think 14 plays the guy had to play one game. Every time, I saw him, he just finished up his master's, which I was really excited about. And yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and but I feel guilty every time I see the guy. But I think our numbers are better, and I think the quality of guys. We need to get Burke back. I think because he was doing some good things. But I think from a sheer number standpoint, I think at least we've balanced that area.
Jim, back to that star power
Mhm.
issue. Do you need a certain number of guys like that on a team?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you said you can't pick them out.
Yeah, I
They
think
have to emerge, but.
I believe you need to have, a war daddy here and there, a guy that, can make the play, I mean, I do believe you need that. I'm not sure where it's going to come from,
Yeah.
And
But
yet,
you think you have the talent pool that guys will emerge?
I think in a couple positions, I think we do. I think, I point to Corey James, probably moving back into a spot that he kind of was in as a freshman, playing with consistency and a guy that can give us some of that. I think Aaron Davis has developed into, defensively pretty good. We still need to probably develop a pass rusher. I'm getting that consistently inside. And then on offense, we've got a quarterback that's done some decent things, figured out to throw it to our colored jersey. And, You know, so he's a guy that I think can maybe carry a little bit more. And then I think we're gonna be better at receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can become a very efficient, you know, but well, that's what spring ball's for, and that's, you know, I mean, but the true star power thing, you know, I'm not big on that anyway. But I mean, certain guys have it, and I think it's important to your team.
Are you expecting a drop off then at running back with Gibbs leaving?
Well, I think anytime you have that loss of that many yards, you know, I think obviously there is, and yet I'm very confident in the guys that we have. And, you know, it's like when you talk about when you lose like one part, okay, the other parts need to pick up what they do, right? And you know, we'll just have to figure out. Each year, guys, it's a different team. And what is our identity? I can't tell you what it is right now. We can be a team that, you know, throws it 45, 50 times a game. I don't know. You know, if that's what it takes, that's what we might have to do. Or, you know, are we going to be able to create those explosive plays, you know, at whatever spots they are? I don't know. We'll see when we get this team together.
How much better do you feel a year later with a quarterback in Garrett Grayson, with the leadership ability that he displayed as he heads into this FAMU as opposed to what he had going into last year this time?
You know, I just see, you know, the confidence in his eyes, and even in that game, I mean, there was no panic. And that tells me he's becoming comfortable. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of that kind of double clutching on throws. And, you know, I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? And, I mean, it makes you feel better, but he's still got a long ways to go.
Do you think you'd get him? He's one that at times the competition maybe made him better, at times maybe it made him second guess himself. Do you worry about how to kind of balance that as far as him going in as a returning starter?
You know, he's going to feel the heat from a couple guys still. And, but I don't see him, you know, I don't think it's going to be a big deal to him. But I feel pretty good at that position.
Do you have other guys, do you feel like this FAMU is going to be key for some individuals?
Yeah.
Who would they be?
Oh, I could go up and down the roster. I mean, there's some guys that really need to prove themselves this off season, and I'm not going to zero them out.
Right, you're not going to throw anybody. Okay, give it to me this way. How many of them are on that list of 70? No, I'm just curious. How many are on that list of 70?
I would say
and
that
how many of them
on
are
that,
just off it?
here's the thing. Here's the first thing. Is you know, you're probably in trouble if you didn't make the roster of 70.
Mm-hmm.
When you got about 89 guys, I think, or something like that, right? That's probably not good. Because that means you're irrelevant. So the amount of guys, and yet there might have been a guy or two sitting there at 48 that, gosh, you'd sure like to have at 22 or 19, right? So the key is this is an opportunity for each and every member of our football team to become relevant. Guys, good? What else we got? Anything else?
Are you hopefully going to get all your quarterbacks back? Is that a concern? I'm talking about pretty much Connor.
Yeah, he hasn't indicated yet. You know, I support whatever he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? And yet he really likes it here. So I haven't, like I said, I won't know any really on that until really the guys get back. So.
When do you expect most of them to leave now so they can transfer someplace then?
Say that again?
When do you expect most of them to let you know now so they can transfer someplace, maybe play spring ball?
Yeah, knowing that they probably have to sit a year.
Right.
You know, if they transfer down, they could become immediately eligible. I mean, that's a choice that, you know, that's up to them.
But you're not aware of any at this point?
No, that's what I was saying. I mean, I haven't.
A lot of schools go back as early as Monday.
Well, and I haven't had like, normally you get a release request.
And you haven't had
I haven't had any, so obviously no one's, you know what I
Or
mean?
even a phone call from another coach saying,
Yeah.
hey,
No, I might have called some coaches and say, hey, I might got a couple guys for you. All right, guys.
You might say that about them.